So the Danaans, the Greeks, held fast against the Trojans, and they did not flee. But now Agamemnon, the son of Atreus, he went all around the crowd, giving out many orders. Friends, be men. Take that courage into your hearts. Look after one another. Don't you know that you are going to make it out of there alive if you look after one another? And remember, courage and glory, they don't chase after those who run away. That's what he said. And quickly he aimed his spear, and he hit Deucalion. Deucalion, the man who is all the way out in front. He was Pergasus' son and Aeneas' best friend. The Trojans, they honored him as much as the sons of Priam because he was fast and he always fought in the front lines. And now the son of Atreus, Agamemnon, hits him with the bronze spear, and it hits his shield, but the shield doesn't protect him. It goes straight through and it hits him in the lower belly, right in the zoster. That war belt goes straight through, and so he falls with a thud and his armor clatters all around him. But now Aeneas kills some of the best men of the Danaans, of the Greeks. Two sons of Diocles, Crathon and Orsilochus. Diocles, he lived in Pherae. It was a land that was rich in life, and he was actually descended from the river Alpheus that ran through the Pylian land, and Alpheus had a son, Orsilochus, who is the lord of many people, and Orsilochus, he had a son, hearty Diocles, and Diocles, he had two sons, twins, Crathon and Orsilochus, and these two boys, well, they had just been boys when they left in the black ships following after the sons of Atreus to come to Ilion with all of its nice horses to win glory for Menelaus and for Agamemnon. Now death's end wrapped itself around them. They were like two lions whose mother raises them up in the folds of the mountain in the deep woods. And those two lions, they come out and they snatch away the cows and the fat sheep of men until finally men come and kill them with their sharp bronze. That's how these two were, Crathon and Orsilochus, as they fell at Aeneas' hands. They fell like two tall pine trees. And when Menelaus, war-loving Menelaus, when he saw them fall, he felt pity. And he ran through the front lines, flashing in all of his armor, shaking his spear. Ares, the war god who was on the Trojan side, had stirred up his battle fury so that now Menelaus would go down at the hands of Aeneas. But Antilochus, the son of Nestor, saw Menelaus, and he was worried about what might happen to the shepherd of the people, and if everything that the Greeks had done would be for nothing. And so as these two were coming together, Aeneas and war-loving Menelaus, Antilochus ran over and stood right next to the shepherd of the people. So that Aeneas, even though he was big and he was strong, well, when he saw two men raging against him, he couldn't stand his ground. And so now these two, Antilochus and Menelaus, they drag the corpses of Crathon and Orsilochus out of the battle, and they hand the poor guys over to their buddies to take back to the ships. And now these two, Antilochus and Menelaus, they turn back to fight in the front lines. And they kill Pylomenes. He's a man like Ares, the war god. He is the leader of the strong shield-bearing Paphlagonians. Menelaus hits him in the collarbone with his bronze spear. And now Antilochus goes after Medon. Medon, who's Pylomenes' charioteer, he's the son of Antimneus. He's trying to turn the chariot, but Antilochus hits him in the elbow so that he drops the ivory reins into the dust. And now Antilochus rushes toward him with his sharp spear, and he stabs him in the head so that he falls into the dust, face forward from his chariot. It just so happens that where he falls, the dirt is loose and very deep, so that he fixes all the way up to his chest with his legs sticking out. And the horses trample over him, strike him into the ground, and grind him into the dust. And now Antilochus, he lashes those horses and sends them back to the Achaeans. But now it's Hector. Hector sees these two coming through the ranks, and he rushes forward with a great cry, and all the strong ranks of Trojans follow with him, and it's Ares who leads him. And Enyo, the city sacker, the lady, and she carries with her ruckus, the ruckus of shameless battle, and Ares wielding his huge spear in his hand. Sometimes he goes in front of Hector, sometimes he goes behind Hector. And Diomedes. When Diomedes sees them, he shudders. He's like a man. When there's a man who comes out of a city and he wants to go across a wide plain, and there's a river. It's a river that flows into the sea, and he gets to that point where the river flows into the sea, and he looks at it, and the river is boiling and broiling, and it's so wide, and he's completely helpless. All that he can do is turn back. That's what Diomedes did. He turned back, and he cried out to his friends, "Friends, we marveled at Hector before when he was on his own. We know that he is a strong warrior, a fierce spear fighter. But there's always a god going next to him and protecting him from death. And now it's Ares, the war god. He goes next to him like some mortal man. So let's just back up. We can stay turned towards the Trojans, but we can just back up, because we would be insane to fight against the gods." And so the Achaeans backed up when they saw Ares with the Trojans. But the Trojans kept coming on. And now Hector, he kills two men, Melanthius and Anchialos. They were in just one chariot. They both knew their battle lust. But huge, big Telamonian Ajax, when he sees them down, he pities them, and he comes rushing through the front lines with his big spear. And he aims, and he kills Amphius. He's the son of Seleucus. He comes from Pisos, where there's just a lot of stuff, but there's really a lot of corn. It was fate that made Amphios an ally to the Trojans. And now big Ajax stabbed him right through the war belt and into the lower belly. And then Ajax runs over to strip him of his armor, but now the Trojans are pouring towards him, all with their spears in their hands. And so Ajax, his shield takes many of their spears, and he puts his heel on the chest of Amphios, and he pulls out his giant ash spear, but he doesn't have time to strip the rest of the armor. He is bombarded. He is scared that he is going to be completely surrounded by these Trojans with their spears, and even though Ajax, he's big, he is strong, and he is brave, but the Trojans, they drive him back, and he has to withdraw, and he's all shaken up. So that's how the work went in the strong battle. Now, powerful fate drove Tlepolemus. Tlepolemus, who was the big, strong son of Heracles, against Sarpedon. So now we have a son of cloud-gathering Zeus versus a grandson of cloud-gathering Zeus. And it's Tlepolemus who's the first to speak. Sarpedon, counselor of the Lycians, what necessity made you a beggar, a man who can't fight at all? You know they're lying, right? The men that say that you're descended from Heracles, you fall far short of all those men who descended from Heracles, even from way back, especially men like my dad. The big, lion-hearted Heracles. You know he's been here before, right? In Troy. He came here because of Laomedon's horses. And Heracles, he only had 6 black ships, very few men. But he sacked holy Iliad and he widowed its streets. But you, your heart is weak. And your people die. I don't think that you're going to be much help, some kind of ally from Lycia to the Trojans. When you go down under my spear, through the gates of Hades. That's what he said. And Sarpedon answered him, Tlepolemus, yeah, that's right, Heracles sacked this city. But it was only because Laomedon was so arrogant. Laomedon paid back Heracles' good deeds with an insult because Laomedon didn't give Heracles the horses that he had come to Troy for. So that's that. And you know what I think? I think that I am going to be your slaughter and your black death. And I'm going to beat you down with my spear. And you're going to give me something to brag about when you go down to Hades with its famous horses. That's what Sarpedon said. Yeah. That's right. And now Tlepolemus raised up his ash spear. And now the spears left both men's hands at exactly the same time. And Sarpedon's painful spear went straight through Tlepolemus's neck so that darkness covered his eyes. And Tlepolemus's spear, it went screaming through Sarpedon's left thigh, scraping the bone. But his dad Zeus protected him from hateful death. And then Sarpedon's buddies, they dragged him out from the battle, but they didn't notice that there was a huge spear sticking out of his thigh. So they kind of dragged painfully. They were too busy trying to get him out. And on the other side, Tlepolemus's buddies, they pulled him out of the battle and back towards the Achaeans. But when brilliant Odysseus saw this, well, he was roused. His strong heart raged, and he was turning it over in his head and in his heart. Should he follow after the injured Sarpedon and try to kill him, or should he kill more Lycians? It wasn't actually fated for Odysseus to kill the strong, shining son of Zeus, Sarpedon. So Athena turned his heart towards killing more Lycians. First, Odysseus killed Coranos, Alastor, Chromios, Alcandros, Halion, Noemon, Critanis, and now Odysseus would have killed even more Lycians if Hector hadn't sharply seen him and come running through the front lines, his armor flashing, carrying fear with him towards the Greeks. What happens? Sarpedon. Sarpedon. Well, Sarpedon is delighted to see Hector coming. And is like, son of Priam, Hector, don't leave me here. I don't want to die in your city. I want to make it home. I want to make my wife and my innocent child happy again. That's what he said. But Hector did not answer him because he just kept rushing on, because what he really wanted to do was rush at the Argives and kill a lot of men. With gusto. But Sarpedon's buddies, don't worry, they dragged him out of battle and they laid him out under a tree. There's a tree here. Can you see it? It's beautiful. It's actually one of Zeus's trees. It's an oak. And one of his friends, Pelagon, pushed the spear straight out of his left thigh, clean through. That's what kind of friend he was. But now a dark mist came on Sarpedon's eyes, and he breathed out his last breath. But the north wind came and gave him some kind of mouth-to-mouth, because the north wind just breathed life back into him and resuscitated him. That's good. So now, under Hector and bronze god of war Ares, the Argives, they did not back up all the way. They didn't run all the way back to the black ships, but they didn't push forward either. They just always slightly retreated. And who was the first and who was the last of the men that Priam's son Hector and the bronze god of war Ares killed? First it was Teuthras, a man like a god. Then it was Orestes, the horse striker. Then it was Trachos. He was an Aetolian spearman. Then it was Oinomaos, and Helenos, Oinopsis' son, and Oresbius. Oresbius had like a sparkly mitre, you know, the mitre, the thing that you wear, it's kind of a warrior spanx, you wear it close to your skin to protect you. His was sparkly. And, you know, it's because he really cared about being a rich guy. He lived in Hyle, that's right on the shore of the Cephisan Lake, and all around him there were many other Boeotians who lived in their own fertile land. But when the white-armed goddess Hera, when she saw the ranks of Argive men being killed like this, she went straight to Pallas Athena and spoke to her, and her words flew. "O Popoi, daughter of Aegis-bearing Zeus, Atritone, Athena, we will be called liars if we let the killer Ares rage like this. We promised Menelaus that he would sack Ilion with its good walls and make it home safe again, so come now. Let's remember our furious courage." That's what she said. And the bright-eyed goddess did not disobey her. And Hera, the most revered daughter of Kronos, she brought over gold-harnessed horses. And then Hebe, who is the goddess of youth, makes a chariot. Let me tell you about this chariot. First, on both sides, wheels. 8-spoked wheels. That's right, 8 spokes. And they have bronze running rims. and gold inner rims. The axle, iron, hubcaps on either side, of course, and they're silver. That's right. And let's get to the car itself. The car is made of woven silver and gold. And yes, you're seeing right. Those are 2 rails, 2, that go all the way around. The pole, silver. And the very beautiful harnesses, the yoke, gold. And they have gold straps. And this is what Hera now pulled over the golden armored horses. And Athena, the daughter of Aegis-bearing Zeus, well, she took off her very pretty dress that she had made with her own hands, and she just dropped that at the threshold of her dad's house. And instead, she put on a tunic of cloud-gathering Zeus. She put on her dad's tunic so that she could arm to go into battle where there are many tears. Then she threw the terrible tasseled aegis around her shoulders. It's this thing like this. I don't know why it's so scary, but it's so scary. And it had on it the goddesses fear and conflict and courage and the chilling chase. And at its center, it had the head of a gorgon, huge, monstrous, terrible to look at. You couldn't even stand it. It was the monstrous sign of Zeus. And then Athena, she put on her gold helmet, and it had 4 plumed crests and 2 horns, and all around it were inscribed the fighting men from 100 cities. And then she put her foot onto the flaming chariot, and she took the huge, sturdy, strong ash spear in her hand, that spear that beats down the ranks of hero men, those heroes that Athena has a grudge against, she who is the daughter of a mighty father. And now Hera also gets up into the chariot and takes the reins and the whip. And the horses, they fly. First through the automatically opening gates of heaven. It's the Hours who operate them, the Hours who are goddesses. They always close and open the dense clouds. Through these now Hera whipped the horses, and they found Zeus. Zeus sitting apart from the other gods, up on the highest peak of Mount Olympus, and she brought the horses to a standstill, and she shouted out to him, "Father Zeus, aren't you outraged by Ares' violent acts? That now he kills so many and such Argive men as these uselessly against the order of things, and as a great grief to my heart. You know Cuprus, Aphrodite, and the silver archer Apollo, they're just taking it easy. They're delighted sending down this maniac, Ares, who knows nothing of what's right. So tell me, Zeus, Father, would you be pissed at me if I drove Ares painfully out of the battle? Hurt him just a little bit?" That's what she said. And the cloud gatherer Zeus answered her, "Go on then." "But I think you should rouse up that pirate Athena to go with you. You know how she loves to bring the pain. That's what he said. And the white-armed goddess Hera did not disobey, and she took up the whip and the reins once more, and now they flew between the starry sky and earth. It was like a man who's up on a lookout point, and he can see so far, all the way across the wine dark sea. That's how far now the echoing horses of the gods leapt from heaven to the earth. And they came to Troy, right between the rivers Simois and Scamandros, and Hera pulled the horses to a standstill. And she unhitched them. So graceful. And she shrouded them in a dense mist. And then the river Simois actually sprouted ambrosia for the horses to eat. And the two goddesses, Hera and Athena, now they went forward. They were shivering like doves. They were so excited about fighting and getting ready to defend the Argives again. They came right to where the best and the most men were, all around horse-breaking Diomedes. Now, these were men who had the courage of lions who eat raw meat, or of wild boars. You know, those beasts whose strength in their chest never wearies. And now, the white-armed goddess Hera, she made herself look like hardy Stentor with his bronze voice. His shout was as great as 50 other men combined. And she stood amongst them and she shouted, "Shame! Argives! Insults! Pretty boys! When Achilles fought with us, these Trojans, they never even left their gates. And now they've come far from their city and they fight beside our hollow ships." That's what he said. She said. Unclear at that moment. And the heart and the spirit in each man was roused. Meanwhile, Athena went and found Diomedes. Diomedes was standing right by his horse and his chariot. He was trying to cool off the wound that he had gotten when Pandros had shot him with an arrow. Remember? That's right. It was all sweaty under the wide strap of his shield, and it was kind of sore, and his whole shield arm was all wore out. So he was standing there. And the bright-eyed goddess Athena comes and stands next to him. Bless you. Son of Tydeus, Diomedes, you're not very much like your father, are you? He was a little man, but he was a fighter. Do you know that I wouldn't even let him fight in the front lines? I wouldn't let him go into the rushing madness of the fray. I wanted him to be an ambassador. From the Achaeans to the Thebans, all I ordered him to do was to take it easy and to have dinner with the Cadmeans, the Thebans. But what did he do? Because he was so strong, he called out all of the Cadmeans, all of them, at dinner. And he beat them all easily. That's what kind of cheerleader I am. And aren't I the same with you? When I stand beside you, when I protect you in battle, when I urge you to fight with your whole heart against these Trojans. And now somehow fatigue has sunk into your limbs. Too many rushes. Or is it fear? Or is it spiritlessness that holds you back here, you who are no spawn of Tydeus, who is the son of hardy Oeneus? That's what she said. And strong Diomedes was like, I see you, bright-eyed goddess Athena, and I'm going to answer you with my whole heart because I don't have anything to hide. It's not because of fear or spiritlessness or hesitation that I'm holding back here. It's because of your orders. You remember? Because you told me that I'm not supposed to fight directly with any of the immortal gods unless it's Aphrodite, who's the shining daughter of Zeus. If she comes into the battle, then I can stab her with the sharp bronze. So that's why I now hold myself back here, and I've ordered my men to do the same. Because now I see that it's Ares. Ares is marshaling the Trojans. And the bright-eyed goddess Athena answered him, Son of Tydeus Diomedes, you have always delighted my heart. But you don't have to worry any more about Ares or any other furious, immortal god. No, I don't think you should show any respect for Ares at all. He's a madman, you know. He was made bad. He's two-faced too, you know. He told me and Hera that he would protect the Argives, that he would fight against the Trojans, and now look at him with the Trojans as if he's forgotten all of that. So now drive your whole-hoofed horses straight at furious Ares. That's what she said. And as she said it, with the back of her hand, she just knocked Menelaus right out of the chariot, onto the ground. It's okay, he gets up again, right away. And it's Athena now who takes the reins. But as she steps into the chariot, the terrible goddess, the oaken axle groans under her weight. I mean, she's huge. She's a goddess. And Diomedes, well, he's a pretty big guy. And now she drives the whole-hoofed horses straight towards Ares. But Ares, he's just killed Periphas. Periphas, one of the best of the Aetolians, Cassius's son. Now Ares is spattered in blood. He's killed him. And Athena, in the chariot, she's putting on her helmet of death, Hades' own helmet, so that Ares won't recognize her. But Ares, he does see Diomedes. And as soon as he sees him, he leaves Periphas behind, leaves him right lying where he first killed him, and he charges. And now as these are coming close to one another, it's Ares first who stretches out with his sharp spear, trying to get under the reins and under the harness so that he can stab Diomedes and take his life. But Athena just grabs that spear with her hand and pushes it down so that it goes under the chariot uselessly. And now it's Diomedes' turn. He grabs the spear and he lunges with the sharp bronze, and Pallas Athena drives it so that it hits Ares right in the soft spot, right between the hips and the ribs. And not only does it go through his mitre, right, the warrior Spanx thing, but it bites through his skin, and then they just pull the spear back out again so that Ares bellows! Ares bellows like 9,000 or 10,000 men bellow as they go into battle carrying with them the conflict of Ares, and a horrible fear took over the Achaeans and the Trojans when they heard it. That's how great the bellow was of battle-hungry Ares. And at least it seemed to Diomedes, the son of Tydeus, that now Ares just kind of flew up into the wide heaven, almost like when there's a whirlwind that comes down when a gray cloud gathers on a hot day. That's how it seemed to Diomedes, that Ares flew up into heaven. And Ares, he lightly lands in Mount Olympus. And he goes to his father's house, to the house of his father Zeus, the son of Kronos. And he sits next to him and he shows him the wound and all the immortal ambrosia blood that's coming out. And then he says to him, moaning, and his words just fly, Zeus, Father, aren't you outraged by Athena, by her violence? You know, it's really like, it's just the worst. It's the worst thing ever when the gods fight against each other. Ugh. Especially when they're just trying to win some favor for some mortal man. Man, you know, this is your fault. Zeus. You're the one who had her. She's just like such a destructive, mean, depraved girl. And you know, all of the gods, they listened to you. And you broke all of us. And now you just won't do anything at all. To stop her. Just stop her. You know, she sent out Diomedes against the gods. First, he sent Diomedes against Cuprus, against Aphrodite, and he stabbed, she's right in the wrist, by the arm, by the hand. And then Diomedes, he came after me. He was like a god. And if it weren't for my really fast feet, man, I would still just be there, like lying there with the corpses. I mean, I wouldn't be dead. But I would be like completely without my battle fury because I got stabbed with the bronze. That's what he said. And Zeus just looked at him from under his brows. Oh. Don't come here and moan at me. Don't you know that we all know that you are two-faced? Actually, I hate you more than all the gods. All you ever love are battles and strife and war. Besides, you know your mother, Hera, well, she has a fury in her. She has a kind of fury that's hard to stand up against. And it just keeps going. And I've tried to stand up against it. She beats me down. And I think it was your mother's idea for you to suffer like this. But I won't let you hurt for long. I mean, you are my son. My son and your mother's. If you were anybody else's kid and you acted like this, you would have been thrown out of heaven so long ago. That's what Zeus said. And right away, he ordered Paean, the god of healing, to come. And Paean sprinkled the pain-killing drugs all over Ares. It was just like when you take fig juice and you squeeze it into milk, white milk, and then you stir it, and it curdles right up into soft cheese. Well, that's exactly how Wyatt now healed Ares. Trust me. And then the goddess Hebe, the goddess of youth, she came and she gave Ares a bath. And she dressed him up in fancy clothes. And he just came and sat right back next to his dad, exulting in his own strength. And Pallas Athena and Hera, Argive Hera and the protectress Athena, they now came back up to the great house of their father Zeus as well, because they had stopped man slaughtering Ares from his man killing. So now the dreadful battle cry was abandoned just to the Trojans and to the Achaeans. And now the battle pushed all along the plain, here and there, between the Scamandros and the Simois, as men attacked each other with huge spears. And it was Ajax, huge Telamonian Ajax. He was the first to break through the strong phalanxes of the Trojans. He was a ray of sunshine to his buddies as he killed the best of the Thracians by far. Acamas, Ajax's spear went straight into his lower belly, and he fell into the dust with a thud. Now it was Diomedes of the great war cry. And he killed Axiolos, the son of Teuthras. You know Axiolos? He lived in rich Arisbe, and he was just the nicest guy. He had a house on the side of the road, and every single person that went by, he would just welcome them. And where are all those men now? They couldn't stand in front of him or protect him from hateful death. Diomedes, he killed him, and he killed his charioteer as well. I always reverse the letters on this one. Galesius! And the two men sank into the ground. And now it's Euryalus. And he goes after Adrestus. And he kills Opheltius. And now he runs after Aesopus and Pedassos. They're actually the sons of a river nymph. Barbarea. What a name. And Beucalion, who was the most revered eldest son of Laomedon. Beucalion, as his name suggests, was tending his flocks. And he lay down with the nymph, and he had sex with her. And so she conceived those boys in secret, and she gave birth to twins. And now Mephistus' son Euryalus killed them both, dissolved their battle fury, and stripped them of their armor. And now it's Polypoetes who stands fast in war. He killed Astylos, and it's Odysseus with his broad spear. He kills the Percassian Pedites. Teucer kills shining Orataon. Antilochus, the son of Nestor, he kills Ablaros, his shining spear. And then it's the Lord of Men, Agamemnon. The Lord of Men, Agamemnon, kills Elatos, who lives in high Pedassos, where the flowing Scamandrius goes. And now it's the hero Lytos. Lytos kills Philocos as he runs away. And then it's Eurypylus who kills Melanthius. And Menelaus of the great war cry. Menelaus of the great war cry took Adrestus alive. Adrestus's chariot, well, it was tangled up in the branches of a tamarisk tree, which is some kind of willow. And they had gotten there because the horses got spooked in the melee, and they ran back towards the city, along with all the other horses that ran back to the city. And so Adrestus's chariot got stuck in the branches, and the pole broke, and Adrestus was thrown from the chariot, and he landed right in the dust next to the chariot's wheel. And now Menelaus came over to him with his long shadow spear. But Adrestus just threw his arms around Menelaus's knees and supplicated him. Okay, so this is a thing. If you can get your arms around the knees of somebody or at the chin of somebody when you're in battle, they're supposed to let you live. Okay? So Adrestus, he supplicates Menelaus, "Son of Atreus, take me alive, and you will get a worthwhile ransom. My dad's rich. He's got treasure. He's got gold and bronze and wrought iron, and he would be so happy to give you endless gifts if he found out I was alive, back by the Achaean ships." That's what Adrestus said. And he stirred the heart up in Menelaus. And Menelaus was just about to take him back to the fast ships, give him over to his buddies. But Agamemnon came running. Agamemnon came running, and he cried out to his brother Menelaus, "Oh, Pepon! Menelaus, why do you care so much about these Trojans? Did they treat you so excellently when they were at your house? Every one of them deserves to die, even the unborn baby still in its mother's belly, at our hands. Bring the hateful death to all of them, all of Troy, so that they are never seen or thought of again." And when the hero Agamemnon mentioned justice like this, he changed Menelaus' mind. And so now Menelaus, he pushes Adrestus away with his hand. And now Agamemnon stabs him in the soft part, right between the ribs and the hip, with his sharp spear. Darkness covers over his eyes as he falls backwards. And the son of Atreus pulls the spear back out again. And now it's Nestor who addresses all the Argives. "Friends, Danaan heroes, sidekicks of Ares, now is not the time to run back to the ships, gathering up all your treasure. Now's the time to kill men, and then we can take it easy later and strip all of the corpses along the plain." That's what he said. And he stirred the heart in each of them. And so now the Argives would have chased the Trojans all the way back into the walls of Troy if it hadn't been for Helenos. Helenos, who is the son of Priam. He is the best of all of the bird seers. And he goes and he finds Hector and Aeneas. And he says, "Hector, Aeneas, I know that this war work falls most of all on you, of all of the Lycians, of all of the Trojans. But it's because you are our best. You are our best in fighting. You are our best in thinking. So now you must take a stand. You must check the men here before the gates. Don't let them run back into the arms of their wives and become the delight of their enemies. Rouse up every phalanx. We must hold fast. We must fight against the Danaans, the Greeks, even though we're worn out. We must." And Hector, go back to the city. Go and tell your mom and mine, our mom, go tell her to gather all of the old women and take them up to the Acropolis, where there's a temple to bright-eyed Athena, and tell them to take out a dress that's under lock and key. It has to be the most delightful dress, the biggest dress, the dress that our mom likes the most. And take that and lay it at the knees of the statue of Athena with her good hair. And then maybe she will pity Troy, and she will pity our wives and our children, and she will stop this man, this Diomedes, the son of Tydeus, he is like a wild spear fighter now. Some kind of strength has come on him. I think that now he is by far the best, the strongest of all of the Achaeans. We were not even this scared of Achilles, and they say that his mother is a goddess. This man, Diomedes, has gone mad. He rages too much, and I don't think that any of us can match his battle fury. That's what he said. And right away, Hector did not disobey his brother, but he jumped down from his chariot with all of his armor, and he went and he roused the ranks of the Trojans. And he stirred up once again the dreadful battle cry. And now the Trojans, they wheeled round and they stood fast against the Achaeans. And now the Achaeans, they actually turned back. They gave way and stopped from the slaughter because they thought that it was a god who had come down out of the sky to help protect the Trojans. And Hector went among their ranks and he said, "Trojans, be men and remember your furious courage while I go back to Iliad so that I can talk to our counselors, the old men, and our wives, and tell them to pray to the gods and to promise many hecatombs, to promise the sacrifices of hundreds of animals." That's what he said, and he left. And his huge shield, it hit his ankle and his neck as he ran. And now, Hippolochus's kid, Glaucus, he comes out against Tydeus' son, Diomedes. And it's Diomedes, the son of Tydeus, who's the first to suck to Hippolochus' son, Glaucus. He says, "Who are you? Best of men? I don't think I've ever seen you before in battle, where men win glory. And now you're gonna come all the way out in front like that, challenging me with your spear? You know what they call the men unlucky, whose sons come and try to match my battle fury, right? Unless you're a god, like from the sky. I don't fight against gods from the sky. Lycurgus, the son of Adrestus, he fought against the gods from the sky. Let me tell you. Okay, Dionysus, the god, he had all these women that were taking care of him, and the violent Lycurgus came and drove those women down the sacred Nicene hill, and he took all of their holy stuff that they used for orgies and rituals, and he just threw it down on the ground, and then he horsewhipped those women. And then Dionysus, the god himself, he was so scared that he just jumped into the waves of the salt sea, and it was Thetis, the sea nymph, who had to give him a big hug, because he was just trembling. Terrified because of Lycurgus' violent acts. And we all know that the gods love the easy life, but they brought the pain to Lycurgus. First, Zeus, the son of Cronos, blinded him, and then because all of the other gods were unhappy with him, he did not last long on this earth. That's why I don't fight against the gods from the sky. He wasn't absolutely instructed to. That's what he said. Oh, no, that's not what he said. But, if you're a man, if you're just some other mortal who eats the fruit that comes out of the ground, well then come closer. And come closer to your time of death. That's what he said. And Hippolochus' kid, Glaucus, he answered, "Hardy son of Tydeus Diomedes, why do you want to know about my family?" Don't you know about the families of men? They are like leaves on the trees. You know, the wind comes and blows the leaves down to the ground, but then they just bud again in the springtime. That's how the families of men are. They wither away and they bud again. But I'll tell you about my family if you want to know. Many other men already know. There is a land called, well, Hera. It's right in the corner, actually, of horse-feeding Argos. And it was Sisyphus who ruled. Yeah, he was the luckiest of men. He was the son of Alos, Sisyphus. And he had a son, Glaucus, and Glaucus had a son, Bellerophon. And Bellerophon, the gods gave Bellerophon every kind of beauty, every lovely bit of manliness. Except they made Proitus the sceptered king. So Proitus was actually more powerful than Bellerophon and actually exiled him right out of Argos. It was because of Proitus's wife. Proitus's wife, Shining Antea, well, she wanted to get with Bellerophon. But Bellerophon, he was a really good man. And he was like, And then Antea, well, she went and lied to Proitus and was like, Bellerophon tried to sleep with me. I didn't want to sleep with him, so why don't you kill him or let him kill you? And Proitus, well, he didn't kill Bellerophon because he had some sense of piety, I guess. But instead what he did was he exiled him to Lycia. But it's really kind of tricky because Proitus's father-in-law lives in Lycia, and he has this elaborate plan where he gives Bellerophon this secret note, which is this folded tablet that has everything, like these bad signs written on it, so that Bellerophon will take this to Lycia, show it to Proitus's father-in-law, and then Proitus's father-in-law will try to kill Bellerophon. Is everybody clear on that? So Bellerophon, he just makes his way to wide Lycia. The gods are protecting him, which is great. And he gets there, and there's the river Xanthos. It's so nice. And the Lycian king, he greets him super enthusiastically, and he hosts him for 9 days. And every day he sacrifices a cow. But on the 10th day, when rosy-fingered dawn came, well, then that Lycian king, he wanted to see that evil note. And Bellerophon had to show him the note. And the Lycian king saw the bad signs, so, you know, he figured he had to try to kill him. So he sent Bellerophon on a quest to kill the Chimera. Now the Chimera is some kind of divine, right? It's not a man. The Chimera has the head of a lion, and the snake of a tail, and the body of a she-goat. And she breathes furious fire. But Bellerophon killed her. And next, the Lycian king sent him against the famous Limeans, and it was the biggest battle ever. Bellerophon's fine. And then he has to fight against the Amazons, who are like men. Bellerophon kills them. And the Lycian king then, he gets all the best men of Lycia, all of them, to sit in ambush so that they can try to kill Bellerophon when he's coming back. Bellerophon killed them all. So finally, the Lycian king is like, this guy's divine! I'm gonna keep him. And the Lycian king, well, he gives Bellerophon his daughter in marriage. He gives him half of his kingly stuff. And the Lycians, well, they cut out this really sweet piece of land for him. He's got an orchard, he's got a farm. He managed that farm. And his wife, Bellerophon's wife, she had 3 kids. Isandros, Hippolochus, and Laodamia. And Laodamia, the genius Zeus slept with Laodamia. And she gave birth to Sarpedon. That's right, Sarpedon's my cousin. Man like a god, bronze helmet. My family. But you know, Bellerophon, well, the gods, they got a bit angry with him. Different story. So he just wandered through the Aeolian plain on his own, eating his heart out, totally avoiding the paths of men. And Isandros, well, battle-hungry Ares killed him when he was fighting the Selimians. And arrow-pouring Artemis, she killed Laodamea because she was pissed at her. But Hippolochus is fine. And he's my dad. And I brag about it all the time. And you know, he told me to come here and just to always be the best and to stand out from everybody else and to never ever bring shame on my family. We were all up in Ephyra and Lycia. So that's my family. That's the blood that I brag about. That's what he said. And Diomedes, the son of Tydeus, he was delighted. And he just fixed his spear right into the ground. And he was like, well, do you know that we happen to be like paternal, ancestral guest friends from way back? Okay, so your ancestor is Bellerophon. My ancestor, Oeneus, he hosted Bellerophon for like 20 days. And they really got along because they exchanged these awesome guest friend gifts. So Oeneus gave Bellerophon a really, really sweet purple war belt, a zoster. And Bellerophon gave Oeneus this really nice two-handled gold cup. I still have it at home. You know, I was still little when Tydeus left to go fight at Thebes. I don't really remember him. But now I can be your guest friend. I can be your guest friend in the middle of Argos, and you can be mine in Lycia whenever I come there. And we can totally avoid like fighting each other. There are plenty of other Trojans and famous allies that I can kill whenever the gods just throw them at my feet. And you can kill other Argives, if you can. So come on. Let's exchange armor. And then everyone will know that we are guest friends. So Diomedes said, and Diomedes and Glaucus, they both jumped down from their chariots to the ground, and they shook hands on it, and they made a pact, and they exchanged armor. But Zeus, the son of Kronos, well, he just took away Glaucus's wits, so that Glaucus traded his gold armor that was worth 100 oxen for Diomedes' bronze armor that was worth 9. That's it for this week. So much for coming. I want to thank Amit and Bardapin. Awesome. You save my ass every day, Alex Martalogu. And I want to thank this instructor, Myrna, Wyatt, Selkirk. Please come back next week. It's going to be Talia Rubin. Thank you so much.